Alright guys, so for part 2 of our Unit 5 Lesson 4 notes, we're going to do a Punnett square. So I'm excited about this. So we are going to do an example, and then I'm going to have you guys practice. We're going to do a couple examples, so don't freak out. So let's go ahead and do eye color, okay? So we're going to stick, we're going simple, okay? Eye color, we're going to have a big B, which again I would hope you remember is dominant. Okay, that would be brown eyes. And I'm going to write D-O-M for dominant. And then a lowercase b is for blue eyes, which is again recessive. Okay, so each parent is going to contribute either a dominant or a recessive trait to a child. So let's practice this. So if I have a big B, what would that be called? Big B, and little b, little b. So I'm looking for two words in each of these, okay? So on this column, I'm looking for hetero or homozygous. And on this, I'm looking for dominant or recessive. Okay, so pause the video and see if you can fill those out before I actually give you the answer. So pause the video. I'm going to put a P with a circle. That's one moment we're going to pause and see if we can try it. Alright guys, so now that you've tried it, this one they're both the same. So this one would be homozygous. And since there's at least one capital, that would be dominant. So homozygous, dominant. The second one, since they're different, would be heterozygous. And since there's at least one capital, it will also be dominant. And then two lowercase, they're the same. So that would be homozygous. And now there's no capital, so that would be recessive. Okay, so those are the three options. Again, there's no such thing as a heterozygous recessive, so those are the only three options. Okay, so we're going to cross two heterozygous dominant. So we're going to cross big B, little b, and we're going to cross it with another big B, little b. Now the first one that we cross is always the father, which is the male. The second one that we write, okay, is the mother. Okay, now the only reason why that matters is because you're going to write the father is going to go on the top of our Punnett square and the mother is going to go on the side. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So now, why each parent has two is because they each got a trait from their parent. So this father got one dominant and one recessive from their mom and dad. You don't know which one. We always write the dominant first, so it doesn't really matter. And so did the mother. So the mother got a brown eye and a blue-eyed trait. The father got brown and blue, but they both have brown eyes. So this is two brown-eyed parents that just happen to be carrying the blue-eyed trait, though. So they don't show that, but they still carry it. Okay, so we're going to do what's called a Punnett square, which I find Punnett squares to be fun. They're kind of like puzzles. If you like these, there's actually Punnett square puzzles online. You can print them. But we're going to be doing our very first Punnett square. I'm going to cloud it because this is a really main idea. Okay, so Punnett squares. So the very first thing you need to do is you need to draw a 2x2 square. Okay, 2x2 square, just like that. Okay, now the father's genotype, so those letters go on the top. So you have one big B, one little b. Okay, so one above this column and one above that column. The mother is going to have hers, okay, on the side. So one big B, one little b. Okay, so that's how you set up a Punnett square, is you put those on there. So we've got two heterozygous dominant parents. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cross them. Okay, what that means is you pull this B and this B. It's kind of like those multiplication tables you guys used to do when you were younger. So this is big B, big B. Now, it doesn't matter which one is which, like which one came from mom or dad. The baby's going to get one of those options. Then you go over big B, little b. Now, this order matters. You always, always, always write the dominant letter first. So it would be big B, little b. So this, if it's always like a spin of a wheel, which one it would be, but if this was the offspring, it would have brown eyes and it would carry only brown eyes. This one has brown eyes, but it carries the blue-eyed gene, okay? This one, we would do big B, little b, okay? And then little b, little b. Okay, the only rule on which letter goes first is if it's dominant, it goes first before a recessive. That's the only rule you really need to remember. So that is a finished Punnett square. So what this means is that every time that this particular mother and father have an offspring, it gets one of these 4 boxes. So hypothetically, this is a blue-eyed baby, and these are 3 brown-eyed babies. Now, they could roll the dice and get a blue-eyed baby. Then the second time they have a baby, they could roll the dice and get a brown-eyed baby. Then the third time they could get another blue-eyed baby. So it doesn't mean that if they had 4 kids, each of the kids would claim one of these boxes. So I just want to get that misconception out of the way. So what we do here is we give it kind of some math. So we always write this thing called the ratio. Okay, so the ratio, I'm actually going to write the equal sign here so it's a little easier. So the ratio would be blank to blank. So we would always write our dominant to our recessive. So out of the 4, how many dominant do we have? That would be any that have a capital letter, 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. So that would be 3 dominant to 1 recessive. Okay, so 3 dominant to 1 recessive. Okay, so we would write 3 to 1. So that would be 3 brown-eyed offspring to 1 blue-eyed offspring. Okay, now the percentage, so if I say brown versus blue, brown would be a 3 out of the 4 boxes, okay, which equals 75%, where the blue-eyed, that's only 1 out of 4, so that's a 25% chance of having a blue-eyed baby. Keep in mind that these two numbers always, always, always have to equal 100%, okay? Always, always, always. So the options here, so the offspring options are the following. So we have a big B, okay? Or we have a big B, or a little b, little b. So we have all of them, okay? Homozygous dominant, heterozygous dominant, or homozygous recessive. Okay, and we have a mix of brown and blue-eyed babies. All right, so that's our first practice one. Okay, so this is going to be example number 1. Okay, example number 1. So I'm going to give you guys another one to try. So let's see how well you guys can do this. So if you need to catch up at this point, go ahead. So we're going to do example number 2. Okay, this time I want you guys to cross, and I'm going to write it out a little bit differently this time just so we can practice a different kind. Okay, you're going to cross a heterozygous brown-eyed father with a homozygous blue-eyed mother, okay? And I'm actually going to use a pen just to kind of make a little separation between example 1 and 2, okay? So heterozygous brown-eyed father with a homozygous blue-eyed mother. So let's go ahead and write the genotypes. Okay, so we have our father and our mother. Okay, and when I say cross, that means that they are going to mate. Okay, they're going to produce offspring. So for the father, it's a heterozygous brown-eyed father. So heterozygous means different. Okay, and if you want to pause it and see if you can get it before I answer it, that's totally fine. So heterozygous brown-eyed father would be big B, little b. And a homozygous blue-eyed mother would be, well, since it's blue eyes, it's recessive, and if it's homozygous, it's both, so that would be a little b, little b. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and set up our Punnett square. I'm going to move it over a little bit this time. Okay, I'm going to move it over just a tad to make it a little easier. Okay, and I like using different colors. It just helps me see it a little bit better. Alright, so who do we put on the top, the mother or the father? Hopefully you guys remember that it's the father, so we're going to go big B, then little b, and then the mother goes on the side, little b, little b. Now, if let's say you swapped those accidentally, you would still get the same results. It's just not scientifically precise. So let's just make sure we're trying to be as scientifically precise as possible. So I would like you guys to go ahead. I'm going to put a P with a circle. Okay, I'm going to have you guys pause the video and see if you can cross this before I do. So go ahead and pause it. Okay, and try it, and then let's see what happens. Alright, so now that you guys have tried it, we would know that this is a big B, little b, little b, little b, because I pulled them over. This one would be big B, and then little b, little b. Now, I like to go through and just underline any that have a capital letter, because then I know that those are dominant. Okay, so what is our ratio? Okay, now it makes sense. It makes sense that we would have more options of blue-eyed babies with a blue-eyed mom than the previous question, which was with two heterozygous dominant parents. So this one, the ratio, dominant to recessive, would be a 2-to-2 ratio. There's 2 brown-eyed offspring and 2 blue-eyed offspring as options. Okay, so now we're going to write down the fractions and the percent. So brown eyes would be a 2/4 chance, which reduces, right? That reduces to a half. So we know that that is 50% chance of having a brown-eyed offspring. And for blue, it's the same thing, 2/4, which it reduces to a half, which equals 50%. So you have a 50-50 chance on this one. Now, with this offspring option, there's only 2. There's no homozygous dominant. So it's either big B, little b, which is heterozygous dominant, or little b, which is homozygous recessive. So that is our next example. So the next page, we're going to kind of go over a little bit of some more examples, but I'm hoping by this point you guys kind of get how we, cross them, how we drag and drop them, how we get the ratios and the percentages, and how we come up with the genotypes with the different wordings. All right, so go ahead and stick around for part 3.